Hello everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. I'm Beto. I'm super excited to have you here and I'm super excited to be back. It's been almost a month since I uploaded my last video. And in today's video, we're gonna learn how to integrate sign-in utilizing React Native with Expo. And here we have a demo of what we're gonna be doing in this video. Uh, you know that this is gonna work for Android and iOS. So let's start trying this application with the iPhone that I have here. When I press sign in, we're gonna have this modal that opens with the login with Facebook. Don't pay attention to these red lines here. It's just showing because I haven't sent my Facebook application for review. You don't have to do that if you are developing the application. Of course, if you are ready to be in production, you have to send your application with Facebook to be reviewed. And once you're approved, you won't have these red letters, right? So let's just ignore that and press continue. And we are going to be redirected back to our application with the information of the user, which is profile picture, name, ID, as well as the token of the user, right? So with that token, we can access more information or whatever you need, right? Whatever you need to do with the token, you can do it. Let's try it with Android. We're going to have the same screen. I'm going to hit continue and we're going to be redirected back to the application. Let's wait a moment here. And now we have the information. Now that took a little bit. Let's try again. I don't know why that took like a couple seconds. But if we go back and go back to application, you can see that it's pretty quickly. Of course, you can show like a loading activity indicator or something while the information is being fetched. Okay, so now that we know what we're gonna be doing in this video, I want to share as well some work that I've been working on my platform Code with Beto, guys. As you know, I have a React Native course and I always invite you guys to get into or get enrolled into the course. And many of you guys have been asking me to translate this course to English. So I have started to doing that. And if you go to the course, you can see that the first two sections are available now in English. So if I press here, full screen, you're gonna have this English button, which is going to switch to the English version of this course. And yep, you can just see that this is in English. Cool, so I wanted to invite you guys, if you want to be a master in React Native, I'm translating this and it's going to be available completely in English, I would say in the next 15 days or 20 days. So you can sign in today and start taking the lessons as soon as I release them. And well, another thing before we start with this tutorial, this code of this tutorial is going to be available in my platform here in Code with Beto as well. If you go to projects, you're gonna have all these projects that we create in this YouTube channel completely for free if you want. Of course, you don't see the one that we are doing today because I haven't finished it, but as soon as I release this video, it's going to be available here. So you can just enter to the project that you want to get the code, for example, and you can check the GitHub and download the project directly from here. You can also find helpful commands or the dependency that we're going to be using, right? Okay, so now that being said, let's get this out of the way and let's start creating this application. Okay guys, so let's start by creating a new Expo application. Like I said, we're going to be using Expo, so let's run the command npx create Expo app. Hit enter, and this is going to ask us the name for this application. I'm going to name this application Facebook login, right? Hit enter, and it's creating this application. Cool. Now this is going to take a couple moments, so let's wait. Okay guys, and as you can see, the project is ready. That was quick, so we can access the Facebook login folder that we created. And now we can open this on Visual Studio by running this shortcut, code dot. Okay guys, so here we have our project and I'm going to start by installing some dependencies that we are gonna be using for this video. And I'm gonna open this Explorer so you can see what's going on. For this video, we're gonna be using Expo auth session. This is the new way recommended by Expo to do authentication stuff. So let's bring the documentation and let's start by installing this Expo auth session package as well as the Expo random. So let's copy that. Let's get this out of the way and we are going to paste that here. So it's gonna be loading for a while. And once that is ready, we're gonna also need another dependency, really important. It's going to be Expo dev client, and I'm gonna bring it here. I'm gonna run the command npx expo install as well, Expo dev client. We're gonna need Expo dev client because we need to have like the build of our applications in order to be able to redirect the users back to our application. Once we have Expo dev client, we're gonna need as well another dependency, which is going to be the Expo web browser. If you remember, when I was trying the application, we have this modal, which shows the user the interface of Facebook, and then that way we don't have to get out of the application to go to Safari, for example, and then go back to the application. We can do everything inside the application, at least on iOS, because on Android, we need to go to an Explorer and then go back to the application. So we're gonna need Expo web browser. Okay, guys, I think those are the dependencies that we need. So let's clear our terminal and we can start this project by running the command npx expo run iOS. This is going to start the Expo dev client or the build for this application. And note that we are not going to be using Expo Go, which is the application that we always use when we create applications. We're going to need a standalone, like I mentioned before. So let's run this command and let's wait. Of course, we're going to need to set up the bundle identifier for this application. And I'm going to leave the default that Expo gives me here, which is going to be com betomoedano and then Facebook login. Cool. So let's hit enter, and this is going to start creating our application or installing the pod dependencies and creating basically the build, right? So now, while this is being done, we can go to the Facebook developer account. Okay, guys, so here we are in our Meta for Developers account. If you don't have one, you are going to need to create one account in order to be able to use Facebook sign in or integrate sign in with Facebook in your application. Here, as you can see, I have two applications that I created before. So let's create a new app. I'm going to show you how you can do this. Let's create a new app, and I'm going to select other in this case, hit next. And here we have a couple, or well, a bunch of options that we can choose from. I'm going to go down here and choose none, and then close this and hit next. And here we can add an app name. I'm gonna name my application Code with Beto. You can name it as you want. We're gonna need a contact email, and you can also, this is optional, you can add a business account. Having a business account is going to allow you to have or be able to access more information of the user, but you're gonna need to send your application for review as well with Meta. So let's hit create application. I'm going to leave that blank and put my my password. Once this is done, we're gonna be inside this Code with Beto application, right? Cool. So one important thing here is that this application at the moment is being in development. So we need to hit live when we are ready to go or ready to test the application. Now, as you can see here, we have Facebook login. So let's hit setup in here. We're going to be redirect to this page. And you can see that we have this quick start, but we don't need to be here. We can just go to the settings section. And well, here we have a couple things. We have the this message that says that we have access to the public profile. If we need access to more stuff, we need to send the application for review, like I mentioned before. And well, we have this quick start, so we don't have to do that, nothing with that information. We can just scroll down and enable this embedded browser OAuth login, because we're going to be using a browser inside the application to sign in the user. Cool. And once that's done, we need as well to provide the link to redirect the user. How do we get this link? Well, let's go back to VS Code, and here I'm going to press yes because I'm using the other port for the other application, but let's hit the 80, let's use the 8082 for this. And now the build is being done. It's being planning the build. So let's wait a little bit. This can take a couple minutes maybe, or 1 minute maximum. And yeah, so let's wait and let's continue after this is done. Okay, guys, so another thing that we need to do before we can do the signing with Facebook, we need to add a scheme for our application. So let's go to the app.json here, and you're gonna see that we have a bunch of settings here that okay, and the application is just done. So we can press open here, and you can see in the background that we have now Facebook login, which is the new application that we just created. And we are not using Expo Go. Expo Go, it's up here. We are using the build, right? So let's hit open, and this is going to start loading the application. And now we're using the Expo Dev client. It's very important in order for this to work, we need to use the Expo Dev client. So let's hit got it here. Let's close this, and we have nothing at the moment, just this standard text. Now I'm going to go out quickly, and I'm going to delete this test application so we don't get confused. This is an application that I did before. Now let's go back to here. And an important thing here is that we have this link that Expo has given us. So we can copy this link, and we can use this link to redirect the users. So let's go back to Chrome, and here we can add this valid auth redirect like this. Cool. So let's hit save changes, and here we have a problem, right? Okay, down here, guys, we have this link, and we're gonna use a part of this link to add it to Facebook so we can redirect the users back. Before we do that, I'm going to add a scheme for my application up here. So let me just make sure that we don't have anything like scheme. And yeah, as you can see, we have this builder identifier for iOS, and we're gonna need this. So after web, we can add the scheme that I just mentioned. So I just mentioned, I'm gonna say scheme like this, and this scheme, we're gonna need two schemes, one for iOS and one for Android. So for iOS, we can just put the slug of the application, or you can use whatever you want. This is a string. And for Android, we need to add the application ID. So I'm gonna put FB of Facebook, and then we can go back to Chrome and copy the ID. So this ID that we have here, I'm going to copy this ID and go back to my application and paste it here like this. And this is for Android to work, right? Okay, so now, as you can see, we're also gonna need the Android package, and we can generate that just by running, let me close this. Let me stop the server for now and just run the command npx expo for build. Cool. Let's hit enter, and this is going to generate the package for Android. As you can see here, I'm going to leave the default as well. So hit enter, and this is going to add this package here. So we need this to redirect the users back to our application. Cool. So now let's copy this and let's paste it here. We're going to form the link to redirect the user. So I'm going to say HTTPS slash, and then I'm going to paste my my bundle identifier for my application. And after this, I'm going to paste this link that we have here, that is Expo Development Client, and all the way until the end like this. And this, guys, is going to be the link that is going to allow us to redirect once we authenticate the user with Facebook, right? So HTTPS semicolon / code com betomoedano Facebook login, which is basically my package or my bundle identifier for iOS. Then we're going to add the Expo Development Client like this. So let's copy this, let's cut it, and let me just close this here. Let's cut that, hit save, and let's go back to the valid OAuth redirects and add this one like this. And I'm going to save the changes, and that's pretty much all we need to do here. Just make sure that you have yes in the embedded browser OAuth login, and then this out redirect. And once that's done, we can as well go to the, I believe, dashboard, and sometimes, or settings, basic. And sometimes you're gonna need as well to add a privacy policy just to have, a better UI for the user, or sometimes Meta also requires this, so it's well to have this. I'm going to put just my platform called beto.dev, so I don't have anything for this application. This is just a test. Hit save changes as well. And yeah, just to make sure that we have everything correctly, let's go back to the Facebook login settings and let's double check that we have this redirect URL. So it seems that it's correct. Let's go to the application. I think this is all we need in the Facebook platform. And here we are back, and now we can start again the build for iOS. So I'm gonna say npx run iOS like this, and let's keep working on the 8082. I'm going to make this small. And now guys, we can start, I think, oops. And now guys, we can start working on the actual UI, right? So let's close this. Let's go to the app.js. And inside the app.js, I'm going to start by importing a couple things here. I'm going to start by importing Facebook from Expo auth session, which is a package that we install at the beginning. And we're gonna need as well the Expo web browser. So let's import that. We're gonna need to handle some state. So I'm going to import as well use state from React. Let me see, use state, and then we're gonna need as well use effect from React. And from React Native, we're gonna need a button, an image to show the image of the user. So let me just copy this here. We're gonna need a button, an image, style sheet to add some styles, and then the text in a view. That's all we need for now. Now, we need to initialize this web browser. So let's say web browser, and let's say maybe complete auth session. This is going to set up like a listener whenever the user is trying to sign in with Facebook. And this is going to open the web browser inside the application. Cool. So now let's hit save. And now let's start adding the logic for the user. I'm gonna start by initializing a variable called user and then set user like this using use state, right? So we're going to initialize this to be null, and let's leave this like that for now. Now, this is going to be super easy, guys. We need to, we're gonna be using this Facebook that we imported here. So we can, this is going to return us 3 things in an array, and you're gonna see what things in a moment. But let's say Facebook here, and then use the hook use auth request. Now, this use auth request is going to take some configuration, which is going to be basically just the client ID for our Facebook application. Let's go back to the Facebook and copy the app ID like this. Go back to the code and just paste it. Of course, you want to be maybe careful with this app ID. It's not very safe to being showing around. You can see it in this tutorial, of course, because by the time you are seeing this video, I'm going to delete this project. So no worries for me, but you maybe have to be careful with this. Even you want to be careful with this, especially if you want to upload this code to GitHub, for example. Okay, so now that we have this, we are going to we're gonna get from this method a request, and we're gonna get a response, and we're going to get as well a function that is called prompt async like this. Cool. So now let's hit save. And just to have this basic example, we're gonna be using a use effect, and inside this use effect, we are going to run some logic whenever the response changes. So we're going to basically fetch the data from the API of Meta and then show it to the user whenever we have a response after showing the prompt of to the user, and the user signs in with Facebook. Cool. So now let's check basically if we have a response, and the response dot type is equal to success. and the response.authentication. It's true. Cool. So now here we can have a function that is basically going to fetch the data once we have the token of the user. So I'm just going to paste these lines of code. You can see that this is going to be an async function. You can abstract this in another function if you want, but just to show you guys how this is done, basically we are doing this async request to this endpoint of Meta, and we are adding the access token from the response that we're gonna get once the user is signing with Google, right? Or once the user, I mean with Facebook, once the user accepts to share the information with our application. So we have the response, then the authentication, and here we are accessing the access token of the user. So we need to add that to this endpoint, and I'm going to just bring this like this so we can see that we are adding as well these fields, and these fields basically specify the information that we are asking the user to give us, right? So we are asking for the ID, name, and picture, and the picture type is going to be large. That's all we need for this endpoint. Once we have a response, we can access the user information response.json. So we have here the user info, and we are going to set the user info to the state setting this user that we created here, right? So once we have that, we can basically just show the information to the user. Now, before we do that, I'm going to create another function, and this function is going to be called handle press async. This handle press is basically just handle when the user presses the button with signing with Facebook. So we're gonna get the result, then prompt async. Basically, it's this function that we are abstracting or destructuring from this Facebook hook, and we're calling it here. This is going to open the modal. Once we get the result, if the result type is different than success, we are going to say that something went wrong. Otherwise, we're going to trigger this use effect because we're adding the response as a dependency. So this is going to trigger this use effect, and this code is going to run. Now at this point, we're going to see, or we're going to know that the type is success. So this code is going to run, and basically we're going to fetch the data of the user. Cool. All right, so let's now just add some basic, and I'm just going to paste here another part of the code. Basically, it's another component that is going to get the user as property. We are going to just, paste as well some styles, and all this basic example, I basically copied from the Expo documentation. I'm going to leave in the description here the guide of how to implement Facebook authentication if you want to check it out by yourself. But basically, it's just a component profile, and we are showing the image of the user and the username and the user ID. And I'm going to show you as well what else we got when the user accepts to share their information with us, right? So now inside this return, or inside this, instead of having this text, we're going to change this to have a view. And then we're going to check if we have a user, we're going to print the profile, which is basically this component. We're going to pass the user. And otherwise, if we don't have a user, we're just going to show the button to sign in with Facebook. And then when the user presses the button, we're going to call the function handle press async. So now let's hit save. And I believe this is all we need in order to this to work. But let's try to reload the application just to make sure that everything is working. Let's get into the Facebook login application, and let's try to sign in with Facebook. We're going to get this alert that is basically telling us that if we want to get out of the application and open a web browser. So I'm going to say continue. We're going to see that we have this message that says Code with Beto is requiring access to your name, profile picture, and email address, which basically is this information or the profile of the user. And of course, we are getting this submit for login review because this is just a test. Of course, we haven't sent this application to Facebook to review it. So you will need to do that through the Facebook developer platform. And once you have done that, or once you are ready to have this in production, you can do that. But basically, we can still working with this on testing or in development. So I'm gonna continue as Alberto, which is my profile, and that's it. We come back to the application and we have the information. Cool. Now let's see if this works on Android, because it's really important as well. So let's just clear the terminal and basically run the same command, but in this case we're going to say Android and hit enter, and we're going to be using the Expo the port 8082. Now this is going to take maybe a minute or two, so let's wait until this is done and then we can continue. Okay, so while this is building, guys, for Android, and actually that's done, I'm going to bring here the Android emulator and I'm going to just move away my iPhone, put this in here. So well, here, just so you don't have to see my face in front of this screen. Basically, we have the same that we had with with iOS. And now we can test this out. Let's say sign in with Facebook. We're going to be redirect, and okay, so we have something here. Something went wrong. Let's reload the application. Sometimes, something fails. Let's try to reload the application, and we are going to see that in a moment we have the same screen that we saw before on iOS. And now we have a different message because this is not the first time that we are accessing. So Facebook is showing a different message, basically telling us that we need to send this for review. So let's hit continue, and we are like magic redirect back to our application. And yeah, that's it, guys. Basically, this is all I wanted to show you. I can just reload this application on iOS as well, and we can see that this is going to work now with this screen basically telling us that Code with Beto wants to access. Let's hit continue, and we're going to be redirect back. Now, just as a final note, I'm going to put here the iOS and I'm going to move away the Android. I just wanted to show you guys that we are getting more information apart from the name, ID, and the image or the profile picture of the user. We can basically check the response. So I'm going to create just another variable just to show the response on screen. Or, well, instead of showing it in screen, I can just open my terminal and just hit here. Once we enter here, we can just say console.log response, but this is going to be ugly, so I'm gonna say .json stringify like this, and then I'm going to say no and 2. Okay, so hit save, open my terminal, and well, I'm going to just open everything here. And this is the information that we are getting from the user every time that they accept. So basically we're getting the URL, we are getting the authentication and the access token. And like I mentioned before, guys, this access token, of course, you want to be careful with this information because, if someone gets this access token, can basically access my information, right? Of course, these access tokens have an expiration date. I believe this one is going to be, I'm not sure, I'm going to say like minutes. I'm not sure how many minutes, but once you have this access token, you can exchange it using the Meta API to have a token that can last up to 60 days, I think. And yeah, basically the access token, it's all we care in this case when we are using third-party providers to authenticate the users. And just as a final note, just to finish this video, I want to mention that if you are using, or if you have seen that there's another way to make this authentication using a proxy, using the proxy of Expo. Just to tell you for your information, Expo is removing this proxy because of security issues. Yeah, so you can, maybe you in the past, or you have tried to do this before and you have seen that you can specify, I believe here, like use proxy. Yeah. And this use proxy, if you make hover, you can see that they tell us that this option is going to be removed actually in the next release of Expo, I believe Expo 49, won't have support for use proxy, so don't use it. And it's dangerous to use it as well. I would recommend that you use just development builds with Expo. And if you are wondering if this works on production, it does. I created a build for test flight on iOS, and I created an APK as well for Android. And of course, I can just bring the APK here. Let me just search for it. And to make sure that this works on production, I created an APK for Android. And if you want to learn how to create APKs for using Expo, I created another video showing that. I'm going to put the link here in the description. If you want to check that out, you can just create an APK and then drag and drop to your device. And this is going to install it basically. And this is my test Facebook, I believe. This is the test. Basically, this is a standalone, so we can try to use it. We're gonna get the same thing, and if I hit continue, we're gonna get redirect back to the application. So this is an APK. This does not need anything from Expo at this point, because it's a standalone build and it's working. So I hope you like this video, guys. I hope you find it helpful. And basically, that's all I wanted to show you. Before I go, just don't forget to go to codeWithBeto.dev, check out the course if you want to master React Native. We have, if you want to learn as well how to integrate sign-in with many providers, like for example, when we use Firebase, we learn how to, let me do this a little bit bigger so you can see. We learn how to use email authentication, Google authentication, Facebook authentication, which we learned today, Apple authentication as well, using Firebase. If you are curious, you can check it out down in the course. And as well, if you know Amplify, in the final project, we integrate authentication as well with Apple and Google using AWS Amplify, right? So if you want to learn more about that, just check out the course, and don't forget to check the project as well if you want to check out the code of this tutorial. It's gonna be available here. And that's it for today, guys. I hope you like this video. I hope you learned something new. And leave me a comment, give it a like, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks, bye.